Usually, directors and casting people see so little of what you have. They see so little of your potential. You have everybody in you. And people who really want to act and do it, can access all kinds of horrible things. And that's what we ask them to do, actors. We want them to channel murderers because we have murderous feelings and we want to see that played out. I mean, not to go too back into the ritual basis of the drama, but there is a need for people to embody these unspeakables and unimaginables. And so that's the actor's job. And I just think it's so that to directors, I want to say, don't just, I hate those meetings where you walk in, you sit down, and they just want to have a look at you. Well, then that's all they're going to get is a look at you. And a look at you is nothing. It's nothing. You got to imagine and see people's work, because people's work is where you'll find whether they can do this thing, can open you up to the hidden world of a character, to the stuff that is never explained, but is always layers your appreciation of the story, because that's why we're here, is to serve this entire story.
When I read a script that I feel like is a story or a role that is something I have to do or I want to be a part of, it's a feeling of like claustrophobia or pressure at first, and like a feeling that I need to be a part of it, and then thinking, what's the audition process going to be, and how do I get as close to this goal as possible, because as we all know, the answer is more often no than it is a yes. But I said this to a friend recently, like getting very close to a role or getting a lot of callbacks or being one of the last three but then not getting it, that is not a clear loss. There's a feeling of an overnight switch with some of these films, but what's been an even more gratifying feeling is working with producers or directors that I worked with before in the past, and more than anything, more than one random successful audition, I think just as consistently putting out as much good work as possible in audition form and casting form is a step in the right direction. I think honesty and being as open a book as possible, I think that was the biggest takeaway from the drama high school I went to for me, was keep your heart on your sleeve as an actor. That's your instrument. Your ability to make yourself an open wound is what will communicate to the audience and hopefully serve as a therapeutic device for people experiencing something similar to the story. As it relates to working more professionally and outside of a academically dramatic environment, I think it's adaptability. That's like the strongest suit you can have as an actor. And as an actor, particularly if you're not the lead of the project, you try to make yourself as clay-like, as malleable as possible. A blip in the radar, a wallflower, somebody who comes prepared and is ready to go, and maybe you have an idea or a trick up your sleeve, something you want to try out, but ultimately responsibilities to the character, to the story, to that sequence of that day, and just trying to do the best job as possible. Now, in the method-y sense, I don't think a relationship has to mirror what's on screen necessarily, and I think if your characters don't know one another, that could be helpful to have a guardedness or an awkwardness or a wall present in the scene. But if you're working with someone intimately, it's good to have that chemistry. Just from a perspective of, wanting to try things out as an actor and feeling comfortable and not feeling like the person opposite you is going to be judging you, which can sound silly or something, but it's a game of sensitivity, and the more sensitive you can make yourself, the more you're able to communicate usually. So comfort's important, and also I think a working relationship and hopefully the emotional IQ and to know when to step away if your scene partner's having a tough time at things, or know when a word of encouragement can be used, knowing what not to say, but ultimately trying to be the greatest ensemble member as possible, keeping in mind that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and particularly if you are one of the leads on a project that you're a tone setter of sorts, so you can't exclusively be concerned about your performance, and actually often your performance is aided if you can put your collective conscious on somebody else in the scene or on the story or on the script, and not what's happening to that line or what inflection you want to use or what have you. that's what makes me want to be an artist. That's what makes me want to be an actor, is that feeling of flow. And like I heard someone say it to me once before, like it can be stapling papers, or it can be playing the piano, or it can be acting. I think when you lose yourself, when you find that certain feeling, that's what's exciting, and more exciting than, you know, being at home 8 hours before you do the scene and thinking that's the scene that I feel that climax and lose myself in. But rather, you know, you're in the middle of the scene and in no cheesy way, but just feeling like, oh, I don't know what happened there. That was truthful or spontaneous, and working from that perspective, which is admittedly easier the more you work. I don't know, I think it's a lesson that I feel like I learned early on, but it's one that I try to keep as personal as possible. I don't think it's exclusive to entertainment and to filmmaking. I think it's in any collaborative process that it's often not personal. A negative note, someone being brash in the way they're giving you a note, it's a team effort. So there's, because like I said, you want to keep yourself open and sensitive when you're working. At least I try to. But you have to, and that can be, this can be not, I feel like, apparent at a young age, but there has to be like professional you, work you, thick skin, ready to get whatever note really comes at you. And then there's personal you, which you protect and helps you protect the work you, and I think you keep those things separate. And I guess that was, I had a good year in drama high school where I felt like I did a scene poorly a number of times, where I felt like I could get over being bad, and yet before that I was really like a very, very sensitive about performance and notes, and would take things personally, when really, I mean, the whole point and the tension as an actor is, you know, your body, your voice, your physicality is your instrument, and yet it's not personal if somebody gives you a note, or you're not clicking, you're not getting a scene a certain way.
I have the hardest time beginning.
You don't know why? It's so easy. You see, you're very skillful, so it doesn't show as much, but your problem is identical. Talking to yourself is involuntary. Very often we don't know it. I talk to myself a lot. It took me years to realize it. People walk in and say, who are you talking to? You know. Now, I don't talk to myself when I am physically still. That's why you're having trouble. You see, that's the only reason you're having trouble. You have to have an activity, and it doesn't have to be completed, and it doesn't have to get all the way finished. You see, what you're missing is the vanity. Now, when we have a crush on someone, which you do have on Astrov, big one, we become very self-aware of our bodies, of everything. Now, in what you might choose, I go to the most obvious, I hope you'll reject that, which is to fix your face, or fix your hair, or put a drop of perfume on your kerchief, or I give myself 10 things I could do, and I try them all. Always remembering that the purpose is not to finish the activity, but to know what it would be. In any monologue, by the way, I always say, what would I do here if I didn't talk? And I explore all of that, and then at some point it's going to be very easy to start talking. Okay? Now, the sensory life, you see, here you stood, he was there, neither of you were physically aware of it. Right? Did she have on scented soap? You see her hair here? You see her hands? She's listening to you. She's looking at the paper. She's going, and you're showing her your work. Now you see, when you hear him talk, you try to listen to this, the tone of his voice, his soap, his leather jacket. I mean, this is so loaded, you see, with sensuality.
I know, I thought that what I was trying to do in the scene was to steel myself against that.
I know, but this is your biggest problem as an actress. You find a mask and you stick to the mask. You forget what's underneath. Never mind these masks. Take them off. And if it's inadequate for the character, I'll tell you. But don't play the cover so successfully. You end up succeeding in the cover. You lose what's cooking, right? No, you can play it, but it is I think that every actor has a huge range of parts, which are this big. There's a whole bunch back there he can't play. And I don't mean that there isn't something in the nature of this character that is hard for you. There's no question about it. I was very interested when you were going to work on this scene. I thought, Yelena, then I couldn't wait.
You can't be successful in this industry if you don't have some ambition.
Absolutely. Ambition is a good thing to me. I've always had it. I would not be here sitting with you all.
None of us
like what? Without it. But there was one specific moment, and this was before any of y'all knew who I was. I was working on Broadway, and I left Hamilton. I was in the ensemble of Hamilton.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was a really great and cool experience. But in this article, it was on I believe it was Playbill.com, a Broadway publication, I spoke about making the choice to leave the show and choosing to do the work to better myself so that I could walk into rooms and try and be considered for featured work or be more of a leading lady. Yep. And unfortunately, it was my first experience with a poorly worded headline. It came out that why this was Ariana DeBose's last time in the ensemble. And unfortunately, there were some members of the community who took issue with it, regardless of the context. And I was really saddened by it, because all I was really saying was, I'm willing to try. I want to go for this. This is a new goal, and I think that's good, and everyone should be able to pursue that. I want to try. I don't want to be pigeonholed for just being a dancer, because that's really what I did in the show. It took some time, and I would never, poo-poo the ensemble. The work that I do now is ensemble work.
They knew that when, listen, particularly with us, when we are not performing in ways that people expect us to be, when we say, hey, I think I'm going to go this direction, people go, who you trying to be?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
say
what
uppity.
you always
uppity.
Well,
or she's too big for her britches.
Too big, or that like you shouldn't want more than where you are. Forgetting, of course, that they have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, just to bring you up to speed quickly, I wrote this 5 plays about the New York City boroughs. It's called Bonkers in the Boroughs, and each play took place in another borough. If you do a matinee and you don't drink water or have some food, you can't function. But it's only 2 weeks of rehearsal. It's hard to do. I feel like a playwright.
Oh,
like I wrote plays.
Yes.
that's amazing.
I know. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's my 5th act. To start something like that at my age is very, I think, should be encouraging to people, because I started to be a comedian at 40, and now at 80, I'm a playwright. So it's never too late to start and get yourself into something new. And I always feel that creativity is the key to happiness. It's the opposite of depression and sadness, is to be creative. Paint, draw, write, I don't know, do whatever you have to do that's creative, and only for yourself, really. I only did this for myself, and then it became a bigger thing.
I guess, how does one take it in when you've been in the business for so long and finally people are like, she's it?
Do you know what? I actually think that I'll be 50 next year.
Congratulations.
And I'm actually looking forward to it, because something interesting happens when you have been, like you were saying, Whoopi, 22 years in theatre, absolutely like a vocal athlete. And I don't mean that in a complimentary way, I mean it in a stamina way. You have to be all about your art and your focus and your craft. So as this has all happened to me, it doesn't make my head go like that. It makes me go, hunker down, do better. Do better, do better, prove, constantly prove, because every day in theatre you prove, every day, live. So it's a beautiful transition that I've made, but it's like why I presented the Olivier Awards last year. I want to keep those two worlds together, because that world fed into this world, and now this one needs to feed back to that one and bring those theatre people out.
So you're heading back to Broadway after 13 years.
Yes.
How are you feeling about making the return?
I sort of feel a little bit like a rusty old wagon, because there's a different set of muscles you need to perform on stage live in front of an audience, and I have been very lucky and have been working a lot in film and television, so I just feel a little like my muscles have atrophied, Yeah.
I'm working out, but it's
Yeah, you have to really think about what did I eat, so
what
I
did
don't
I
fall off
eat?
the stage,
Yeah, exactly.
all that,
Not too much ice cream to muck up the cords and all that. Yeah.
Well, you're such a master at transforming into all the different iconic roles you've played.
So I've sort of, I work with a woman named Julia Crockett who helps me sort of physically transform into some people. I've played a lot of real people, and so I need to kind of approximate some physical communication to an audience of a visual image that reminds them of the person. So I've been watching Chimp Empire on Netflix, and I've been watching The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. There's one character named, she's not an actress, she's a character on this show. She's a person, I guess, Meredith Marks. And she has a particular intensity that I have decided to abscond with and try to turn some of that energy into this person I'm playing.
But the in-depth interviews that the actresses have been getting nowadays, do you go along with this sort of thing? Showing them questions? The same trite questions, but then to go backstage and take pictures of what the actors and actresses are like off camera.
No, I don't believe in that at all.
Why?
Because I think that breaks the illusion. And I don't think the audience should know anything about the inside workings of either a play or television or radio. That is the actor's kingdom. And they are the ones that have to create the illusion. And if they create it well enough, and if it is a very beautiful thing, then people will buy tickets. I sometimes think that when they see it, they are disillusioned, and they don't particularly care about it. It's like someone going into a restaurant and saying, well, I must see the kitchen. And they go into a kitchen and they look at it, and probably they don't want to eat the dish that they thought was so marvelous on someone else's table. I don't believe in this. I think this is as I said, the actor's kingdom, and I think they're the ones that rule.
Because I've gone, there is a time element that is so definite in television. Do you prefer that to stage?
You mean the time element? No, I do not.
Yeah.
I do not. I don't like to be hampered by knowing that great pressure of time over me. After all, in the theater you get 5 weeks of rehearsal or 4 weeks of rehearsal in which to polish that one performance. In television you do not. You have to do it immediately.
And there's always that.
And all of these, the bit of burning the midnight oil has to be done at night or in your spare time. That's the only time that you have in preparation, because there's very, very little time to rehearse.
What about the discipline in theater and in television now as compared to what it was a few
I
years
think
ago?
it's very careless.
In which way?
Well, I don't think that they love the theater enough, and I don't think they love their work enough. I don't think they're dedicated. There are very, very few people who are dedicated to this profession. It's one of the reasons that there's, it seems like anyone can get in it as long as they look physically right, but they don't stay in it very long unless they are dedicated to it. They must love what they're doing, and I find very few people who love it.
You obviously do.
Well,
you've made it your life.
Yes, I do not like a great many things about it now, but I admit it. Well, no, that doesn't make any difference about that. I mean, it's the business as a whole. Generally, I think there's a great deal of carelessness about it. There's a great deal of undisciplined kind of effort. For instance, people should be on time and they should know their lines. And I find people who do not do this. They do not come. They don't care. In the theater, I've waited for them 25 minutes. Well, when I was starting in the theater, I couldn't wait till I was in the theater. Couldn't wait for it. Wait and watch and learn, and couldn't wait till I get up there on the stage. Now with my students, of course, I hammer it into them. But many, many times I will sit there and the stage is vacant. I say, well, now, all right, I haven't paid my tickets to see a vacant stage. Somebody has to get out there and do something.
Right, and you say you have a school?
Well, I have a private school. I have a private class of about 28, and I have 5 in staff who teach. I don't have anything, I don't get anything from it because I just give it my time. Only because I want young, disciplined actors who can manipulate themselves, both on stage and on a film set.
Do you ever have to prepare yourself for a role?
In what way?
Well, you come on as Andorra now. Do you ever have to get yourself in the mood?
Never. Never. I yield to it, I know the character, yield to it and play it. And I have done all of that when I'm at home thinking of how I'm going to do it and how she looked. At the very beginning, when I took the pilot, then is when I started to create the role of Endora. I know the role of Endora. I know how she reacts. I don't have to get into a great kind of mood about it. I don't have to take 25 minutes to find out whether I'm Endora or not.
I'm a bit shocked to be stood here actually, because I still feel, and I've written a little speech, but I'm terrible at speaking publicly, because I almost shouldn't even really be in my job, because I just want to disappear, and probably that's why I'm more comfortable in characters. But being me, I suppose I'm less comfortable, and I never really felt that. Well, I never thought I'd be standing here, to be fair. And I think the last time I was at Drama Centre, I don't think anybody at Drama Centre thought I'd be here either. And I'd probably be locked up in prison. But having said that, I think Shakespeare said, and me quoting Shakespeare is really random, because it's just coming back like that which hath no foil to set it off in Henry IV Part 2, before he becomes Henry V and sort of shapes up and becomes proper establishment and that. He was a bit of a drunken philanderer and a bit useless, a bit like me really, but he had a lot of passion and drive, and sometimes I think even if you don't know quite what it is that you want to achieve, that if you just keep cracking on towards it anyway, that, if you do what you love doing, this is what my dad said to me. He said, if you do what you love doing and you do it well, then everything should sort of fall into place. And, and the great thing about the arts is that it's something that will always keep me company, even in my quiet time when I'm on my own. So if you're going to do anything in the arts, first and foremost, it's one of your closest friends and it will keep you a companion. So I think that's massively important for me. It's kept me, when I've been unemployed, that's what I've sort of gone back to, is that, would I do this? Is it a vocation or is it a job? And I think it's more of a vocation, to be fair. Another thing that my dad said was, your job, Tom, is to observe and reflect, right? And anything that gets in the way of the telescope has to go, including yourself. And I suppose that, having wished I'd wrote or done what Jonathan just spoke about, because I don't have those words, and that was a truly brilliant speech. I think that's what he was getting at, is also about being more erudite towards the workplace, because as we focus more in the workplace, there's not as much time to naff about, because obviously there's time and money involved as well. Now, especially if you're coming up with something from nothing, which is presumably what we all do in the creative department, is that I'm selling a handful of nothing and hoping to come through with some results. And I'll put myself right out there for the risk of it, and I will fail, and it's okay to fail. In fact, you learn more from failing and humiliation in my game than any other that I know. And actually, that seems to be quite similar across the board in most professions from the people that I've met. So it's good to fail, it's not embarrassing, and humiliation is your friend. I'm genuinely grateful to be recognised in this way, and it's another proud moment in a lifelong relationship with the with the university that's presented me with this honour. So, and all of you, it's your day, so enjoy it and enjoy the rest of your career, because it does get harder. And well done for getting this far, because it's just started.